Hey guys, so today I'm going to be ranking every episode of the 15th Doctor's Era, which unfortunately was not that long. I feel like it flew by in an instant. Uh, I wish he stayed longer, but it is what it is. I thought his era was pretty inconsistent. You had some hits, but also you had a lot of misses. And I feel like a lot of the episodes aren't that memorable. You could take it or leave it. So here is the tier list. You guys know how tier lists work. This isn't your first introduction to YouTube, so let's get started. So I'm not going to count the giggle because he's only in the giggle for like 5 minutes. I just feel like that's more of a Tenet episode than a Gawa episode. Um, so let's start off with the church on Ruby Road. Not the best introduction. It kind of, I don't know. I like when Doctor Who's whimsy sometimes, but I feel like there's a certain threshold I could take, and this is a little too much. It's too campy. Doesn't really have a good story to even back it up, and the singing goblins. It just felt like Doctor Who became a parody of itself. I don't know. Did not enjoy it. I did like Ruby though. I thought she had a pretty good introduction, but I felt like the problem with Ruby is her and the Doctor are like best friends out of nowhere, and they're like instantly best friends. When usually it takes companions and the Doctor some time to get to know each other. But whatever, I guess. Space Babies. That's getting an F. That's definitely the worst episode of this era, and I can't believe one that it was made, and two that it was the premiere. Like this is how you introduce a new season. Fucking Space Babies. Oh my god. Um, It's like the problems I had with Chilton Ruby Road, but even worse. It was like the episode was written towards infants, and it wasn't even clever. Like it wasn't even like the plot wasn't even clever. It was just stupid, and I hated it. Moving on to The Devil's Code. This is the third bad episode in a row. Um, I don't, I don't know. I don't like the portrayal of the Beatles. They look, sound, and act nothing like the Beatles. It's like some full blokes that got off the street. Um, the villain, I forgot her name. The music miser lady wasn't really utilized the best and a little too over the top. I don't like the screaming. It was supposed to be threatening by screaming, but it just came off as like like the actor was trying too hard. So yeah, I didn't like that one either. Boom was decent though. I liked Boom. Did Momo like Boom? Figures it's the first episode written by Stephen Moffat, and it's the first good episode. Um, this was a decent episode. I like Shooty's doctor finally gets some good material to work with. He gets a good monologue. I like the whole making fun of like how people profit off of raw, capitalizing off of raw. Some good political satire there, and the whole minefield thing makes for a very good bottle episode. We also meet Belinda's actress for the first time. Different character, same actress, and I thought she did a really good job as well. So overall, pretty solid episode. Not my favorite though, but still pretty solid. Moving on to 73 Yards, which is easily the best episode in his first season, which is a little ironic because he's not even in this one. Um, I think Ruby shines a lot here. The actress gives a great performance of her having to survive without the doctor, and it really plays into her abandonment issues by having everybody she loves abandon her, which is tragic, but also very well written. So that's a very good episode as well. It's also very creepy. Kind of reminds me of like a Stanley Kubrick movie. The eeriness, the uneasiness you get from watching 2001: Space Odyssey is also prevalent here, and I feel like the ending was inspired by that. And moving on to Dot and Bubble, which is okay. I think I think it's a very solid episode, but the fact that you have two episodes that barely feature the Doctor in it back to back was a mistake. I think they should have done Boom and then Rogue and then Dot and Bubble. But um, still, solid episode, though not the most memorable. I do like how we follow a very unlikable protagonist, Lindy or whatever her name is. She's she's a bitch. She let David Bowie died. Also, she's racist. Um, so overall, pretty decent episode, but not the most memorable, and not really one I want to go back to anytime soon. Speaking of not memorable, we have Rogue, guest starring the guy from Glee. This one's okay, I guess. It's not. I feel like the Doctor and Rogue fell for each other too fast after the whole thing of like the Doctor wanting to be alone and not wanting to have any serious romantic relationships. Like that was kind of the whole arc with Jodie's Doctor, and that kind of just gets pushed aside now that he's like head over heels with Rogue, which makes me think that maybe the Doctor just doesn't like Yaz. So I just feel like that whole storyline kind of goes against the Doctor's character. And the bold people thing, they looked cool. They looked nice. I like seeing prosthetics instead of just pure CGI. But they also won't really utilize that well. And it's kind of weird that they're in the past, and nobody in the past was being racist. Like, not that I like racism, but it just feels weird that they're in like hundreds of years in the past and nobody's racist. Um, I don't know. Maybe just a bunch of open-minded people back then, right? Moving on to the Legend of Ruby Sunday and the Empire of Death. So I don't even know where to put this one because I think part one is really good, but part two completely shits the bed. Part one sets up the Sutek reveal very well, and also the Ruby thing, but the part two is awful. It's so bad. Um, like you have Sutek destroy all of reality, but then like 10 seconds later, it's like, oh, everything's gone. He defeated death with death. He brought death to death and made life. It's fucking stupid. Also, if you spend the entire season having Ruby's mom be an entire big mystery box, and then you undo it by having her be nobody, it just seems kind of weird. Like, you could have just not made it a big mystery then. It seems like they're, like, laughing at us for thinking it's going to be important. But there are positives. I like the way Kate was utilized. And I think Ruby's actress did a great job. This one's tough because the first part is really good, and then the second part is shit. I think I'll just put it as C minus. C minus is for like the really mixed bags ones. C is all good. Everything above C is pretty good. C is average, and then this is below average. Okay, halfway done. Can you believe it? No, neither could I, because I thought he was going to stay on the show longer. Moving on to Joy to the World, another Christmas episode I don't like. I like the idea of the time hotel. I thought it was kind of cool, and I like the period where he stays on Earth with that one brunette lady. However, the villain was pretty weak. The ending was very weak. Oh, look, she doesn't see the North Star, and she doesn't care that she's exploding because she's the North Star. She's going to bring joy to the world. I don't know, I think it's kind of dumb. Also, it's not the most memorable. Moving on to the Robot Revolution. I really like Belinda and how she's written here, but also the plot is a little basic, to basic bones, and the villain is dumb. He's like a walking rattle. I don't know. It just seems like you'd want to have a more interesting villain to start off your season. I think the problem with Sweetie Zeros is that the premieres and the finales are all dog shit in the Christmas specials. And like the episodes in the middle are good, but nobody really thinks about the episodes in the middle when you have such a bad finale. Moving on to episode 2, which is Lux. I really enjoyed Lux. I thought it was a great episode. Alan Cummings voices Mr. Ringading, and he's very funny but also threatening at the same time. I think this is a good example of being campy while still being action-packed and threatening and well-written. Looking at you, space babies. Like Lux shows that you could be campy and over the top while also telling a good story. I like the 50s movie theater vibe It's kind of retro and also creepy at the same time. The old cartoon character comes to life as this ball of light. I think it's one of the more memorable episodes of his era. Moving on to The Well, which I think is his best episode, even though it's still a B. This is the sequel to Midnight, and I really like how they take the creature from Midnight, and you, it's still the same villain, but they use it in a completely fresh way. It's not just a bland cash-in remake. They they tell something new with the story. And I thought the deaf actress who had the Midnight Creature attached to her, I thought she did a fantastic job. And the tension was high with this episode. I loved it. Very classic whole Doctor Who. Reminded me of a early Tom Baker, Phil and Hinchcliffe era episode. Moving on to Lucky Day, which I thought was okay. I really like Ruby in this episode, and also it shows that she's best utilized when the doctor's not around, which is an odd thing for a companion to do. It shows that her and the doctor didn't really have much chemistry because I like Ruby when she's alone, but I don't really like her when she's with the doctor. I don't know, that's just kind of bland. You feel bad for her because her life's like finally starting to get back to normal. She has to adjust to living a normal life. She finally falls in love with this guy. Turns out he's also a creepy redditor, and it doesn't go well. I really love the way Katie's utilized in this episode. It shows how her and the doctor handle things a little differently, and she's willing to play dirty to save the day. I feel like she wasn't utilized as well since the Zygon invasion back in 2015. So it's nice to see that little dark side of her again. And I hope we see that in the spinoff that she's in. The Rule Between the Land and the Sea. Very long title. Moving on to the story and the engine. I didn't like this one either. I thought it was very boring, and I did not give a fuck about any of the characters. Oh no, he's an evil bubble. Also, he's being controlled by this lady. Also, he's not. Oh no, like, I don't know, a little hard to follow. Didn't really, I don't really care that much about it. Um, the threat didn't really seem threatening. Also, what's the point of bringing back Joe Martin as the doctor if you're only gonna have her be in it for like 5 seconds? I feel like that's like the third time in a row that's happened. That happened in the Timeless Children, where they brought her back and did nothing with her. Happened in Jodie's finale, where they brought her back and did nothing with her. Happened in Flux. Happened in this. That's 4 times in a row. What's even the point of her? She just comes back, says some cryptic things, and then disappears for another 2 years. Moving on to the Interstellar Song Interstellar Song Contest. I thought this was a pretty good episode. Though again, I think the villain was pretty weak. I don't know. The motivations weren't really there. It's like my home was genocided, so now I'm gonna be even rules. I don't know. It just seemed kind of a lame motivation, but it's pretty consistent with his era. Isn't really known for the best villains besides Mr. Ring-a-Ding. I like the I like the concept though of like having an American Idol across the entire universe, and I love the cameo by Graham Norton. I thought that was kind of funny. And I think Belinda's actress did a great job here. But overall, I don't know. It was pretty middle of the road for me. The whole Ronnie reveal at the end, I think most of us saw that coming. It's like by this point, if every season has a mysterious older woman character who is somebody from the past, you're kind of running out of options at this point. So, at that point, I don't really care who Mrs. Flood was because of the lackluster finale from last season. I kind of gave up hope that anything was going to happen. But this episode by itself stands pretty good. Moving on to the finale. Yeah, this is a very short era for the Doctor. The wish world and the reality world. No. No, 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 no. Nothing that is set up here gets a good payoff. The Ronnie, despite being teased for like 2 seasons, it's not utilized well. It's not explained why she breaks the fourth wall. They make this big deal about Omega coming back, and then it's defeated 5 seconds later. Also, it doesn't sound, look, or act like Omega. And then the Doctor regenerating out of nowhere by saving this baby that nobody gives a fuck about. Nobody gives a fuck about Poppy. I'm sorry, but nobody cares about her. I like the scene with Jodie when she came back. I thought that was kind of cool. I think she had good chemistry with the Doctor. But also, if you're gonna bring back a Doctor all the time, like this was like only 2 years after they brought back. Um, it was only 2 years after they brought back Tennant, and now you're bringing back another Doctor. I just feel like it becomes less special. You know, maybe we could go a few years without bringing back an old cast member to play the Doctor. But no. Then the finale ends with him turning into Billy Piper, which I'm reserving judgment about, but at the moment seems kind of like last minute, please watch our show. Look, we're doing all this crazy shit now. Look, do you remember this character from 20 years ago? She's back, and now she's the Doctor. So, yeah, you could tell that he decided to leave at the very last minute, and I don't blame him, because why would you want to stay on a show if you don't even know if it's going to be renewed or not? Be tied down to this contract while you could do other things and make money. Like I think he's in a movie with Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch, so good for him, you know. So as you can see, there was a few good ones, few okay ones, a lot of bad ones. So that is one of the most inconsistent eras of the show. At least Jodie's era was consistently bad. I'd say this and Colin Baker's era are the most inconsistent eras of the show. So yeah, you know, Shooty Gatwa, you'll be missed, but also feel like I hold you New Year. Which is weird because Christopher Eccleston was in less episodes, but I feel like I got more of a sense of who his doctor was, and I feel like that's because Russell was a better writer at that point. So he was able to characterize the doctor better. While in this, it just feels very inconsistent. He seems like a side character in his own stories half the time. But I thought the actor was good. I liked Ruby and Belinda, though I feel like they weren't around long enough for me to really see the chemistry between them and the Doctor. So let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of Shooty Gatwa's era as the Doctor. And will you be watching the Billy Piper era if and when it comes out? Please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.